In June 2024, Capcom released a fully voiced remaster of a classic monster taming RPG called Monster Hunter Stories. This whimsical and eccentric game tells the tale of monster riders who forge bonds with their monster best friends, known as Monsties, using kinship stones. Sadly, I never played the original game on 3DS, but I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed my playthrough. It pulled me in right away with its art style, characters and basic monster riding premise, but there is so much that I wish I knew about the game before I started playing. So today I'm going to go over a few beginner tips to help aspiring riders get the most out of their adventure. Hello, I'm Heather at Amalgamingle and here are 6 things I wish I knew before playing Monster Hunter Stories. So let's start with the turn-based combat system. Monsters visibly roam around the overworld, so you can choose whether or not to engage them in combat, which I definitely prefer to random encounters. Combat has a triad of basic attack types at its core. There's power attack, technical attack, and speed attack. Each attack type is either strong or weak against the other two, and their relationship determines how effective a chosen attack will be, based on your opponent's attack patterns. Speed beats power, power beats technical, and technical beats speed. Every monster in the game has an attack tendency, meaning that they are more likely to use one attack over the others. Navirou will give you a little bit of information about the monster you are facing when you enter the battle, which offers hints on how the monster will behave. This enables you to prepare a counter strategy of sorts. Although this core mechanic is explained quite well in the game, as well as the ability to sneak up behind a monster to gain the upper hand early with a free turn first, there are some elements that are not explained at all. For example, did you know that you can issue commands to your Monsties? More often than not, your Monstie will default to an attack type that is weak against what your opponent is likely to use if they are left to their own devices. The AI is not fantastic, but a large part of the combat system is collaborating with your Monstie. Sadly, you can't influence which basic attack your Monstie will use, but if you want them to do something different, then you can command them to use a skill instead by selecting Monsties on the left side tab during battles. I initially assumed that this tab would let me swap out Monsties, so don't make the same mistake I did and overlook this ability. Something else that the game does not tell you is that you and your chosen Monstie share hearts. You are given 3 hearts that represent your lives, and if you die, 1 heart will be removed and you have 2 lives left. But if your Monstie also dies, you lose another heart and only have 1 life left. You can restore a heart by using a turn in battle to consume a vital essence. Battles can be quite engaging with head-to-head, special skills, kinship skills, breaking through monster charges by tapping the X button like a crazy person, and there's the ability to speed up the action if you desire. If you choose the same attack and target as your Monstie, then there's a chance you will trigger a double attack which deals a huge amount of damage. The importance of working together with your Monstie cannot be understated. Monster Hunter Stories is not a monster taming game in a traditional sense. Instead of weakening and catching monsters in battle, you have to infiltrate monster dens and steal monster eggs like a dirty little thief. As someone who did not play the original game, I was not aware that the rarity of monster eggs is signified by the egg's smell and weight. You definitely want to pay attention to Navirou's egg comments, which are very helpful in identifying the quality of an egg. The smellier and heavier the egg, the better. Eggs that produce rarer genes for monsters will give off a stronger odour, and odourless eggs will have poor genes. When it comes to weight, the heavier the better. Heavy eggs mean more gene slots for your Monsties, and lighter eggs mean less gene slots. Having more gene slots is definitely a good thing, because it relates to a mechanic introduced a little later on which allows diversification, but I won't spoil that here. Anyways, if Navirou says, "This egg gets my nose twitching and it's also really heavy," then you know you're onto a winner. If he says, "It doesn't smell of anything, boring, it's also really light," then you know to keep looking. Furthermore, the egg's pattern is indicative of which monster is contained within. For example, if you pick up an egg with vertical stripes, then you know that this is a Nerscylla egg. And if you come across an egg with a thunderbolt pattern, then this egg will produce some form of fanged wyvern. Knowing what egg colours and patterns mean can make a big difference and stop you from getting the same monsters over and over again, which did happen to me. The amount of Aptonoth monsters I unintentionally have is insane. Monster eggs can be stolen from monster dens that randomly spawn in every location on the map outside towns. They are easily identifiable by their appearance, and there are different types of dens. There's fixed monster dens that are always in the same location, quest-related monster dens that spawn when a quest is picked up, regular dens, and gold monster dens, which are the rarest. Regular monster dens are basically a great place to find monsters to fill up your Monsterpedia, but it's the rare dens that you want to target for monsters with the best riding actions, base stats, genes, and skill sets. Stealing eggs from monster dens is not the only way to gain new monsters. You can find egg fragments in the world and piece them together to create a monstie at one of the stables located in towns. One of the great things about Monster Hunter stories is that you get to explore large open areas in diverse biomes that are home to different monsters that are acclimatised to the setting. The world layout kind of reminds me of a mix between Pokemon Legends Arceus and Octopath Traveler. Sometimes your character is not acclimatised to the setting and can gain an affliction such as frostbite. This is where items like Hot Mist can come in handy, but accessories that can produce the same effect are much more valuable and useful. An accessory can be equipped alongside your weapon and armour and produce a variety of effects. Accessories are basically talismans that are never really emphasised in the game despite their importance. Some can increase your elemental resistances, boost attacks, increase stats, and even make you immune to things like frostbite, skill seal, poison, overheat, paralysis, blind, and other pesky status ailments. There's small, medium, and large talismans, and of course the large talismans are the most effective. There are obviously consumable items that can negate these afflictions too, but equipping an accessory can save you lots of Zenny, the in-game currency, which is excellent if you want to complete Forge quests that cost an insane amount of Zenny. A few notable accessories include the Soothing Talisman that lets you recover HP each turn, the Anti-Venom Talisman which grants immunity to poison attacks, and the Warming Talisman which grants immunity to frostbite. Armours also come with their own perks that can complement accessories. For example, any armour created from parts of monsters who have the Anti-Venom gene will have some poison related perk because of this, such as the ability to negate poison effects or inflict poison. That's just something else to be mindful of. Every monster that you hatch from an egg can be ridden, which makes getting around much faster and a lot more fun than just using catavan stands to fast travel everywhere. I love how you can collect resources without having to dismount. I really wish other games would adopt this feature. But did you know that each monster also comes with a riding action? Riding actions can help you navigate the environment, so if you come across some form of environmental obstacle, such as rocks that look smashable or ivy that looks climbable, then chances are that you just don't have a monstie in your party that has that particular riding action just yet. If you try to interact with something in the environment, then Navirou will let you know that you don't have the monster with that ability just yet. But if you do, then you are given the option to switch to that monster and proceed. Note that you can only take 5 monsties out in the field with you at once, so if you do have a monster with that ability, but it's not in your party, then you won't be able to switch in the field. You will have to manage your monster set at the stables. In Pondra Hills, the starting area outside Hakum Village, you will encounter many environmental obstacles such as bodies of water with a central island that you can't get to, or mounds of dirt that look different. It will soon become apparent, after scouring every monster den you see to find monsters with the correct ability, that you will likely have to return later to fully explore the area, since monsters with the best riding actions can only be found in later areas. On a quick side note, there's also hidden areas dotted around that are worth visiting. If you see a small hole in the walls or rocks, chances are you can crawl through it to find something worthwhile. There's hidden areas in some surprising places, so be sure to properly look around and take risks, like entering quicksand to see what happens. Games like this love their hidden areas. One of the most important, yet completely forgettable, tools that you have at your disposal during battles is your battle pouch. Instead of being able to access your full inventory during combat, you can only access your battle pouch, which allows you to store and use only 10 items. With this limit, it's important to always tweak the contents of your battle pouch, choosing items wisely, based on the areas you find yourself in and what enemies you are likely to encounter. The battle pouch is super important because this is where you can access items that heal, provide insight, gain buffs, protect, restore and more during battles. I always kept forgetting to customise my battle pouch. It's so frustrating to enter a battle realising that you need a certain item that you know you have but cannot access after failing to put it in your battle pouch. Items can be scavenged in the wild, bought, created using a recipe or gained as quest rewards. Note that if you don't want to keep swapping out items, then you can create up to 40 preset battle pouches and rename them, although I've never felt the need to use this feature, but it's nice that the option is there. Personally, I would recommend always having at least 2 HP restoring potions, one of which restores the whole party at once, and reserving 2 slots for items that remove status ailments that you are most likely to encounter. For example, if you find yourself in a forest, then you will likely come across poisonous monsters, so having antidotes would be a great idea. Similarly, if you find yourself in a cold area, it's likely you will need some hot mist to counteract frostbite. Next, I always make sure I have Vital Essence in my pouch because this can restore 1 heart during battle and can be a literal lifesaver, especially since you and your monster do share hearts. If you both die at once, then that's 2 out of the 3 total hearts gone. Everything else in your pouch can be swapped out and is mostly your preference. It's also handy to have 2 slots for items like Demon Drug or Armor Skin that can increase defense or attack, since there is no existing defend command and you have to simply ensure you have enough HP to withstand incoming attacks. Bit of an oversight really, but at least we've been given these items to help. I would also place some offensive items in 2 slots, such as bombs, traps or knives, of which we are given a wide variety to choose from. Not only do these cause physical damage, but they tend to inflict enduring ailments, prevent enemy actions, or in the case of the smoke bomb, enables you to flee from battles. Finally, I would also prioritise having some paintballs available, which increases the likelihood of a monster retreating to its den and tracks where the den is so that you can follow it. The benefit of this is that you can enter the specific monster's den to take an egg and gain that monster for yourself. There is a wide selection of items you can choose from for your battle pouch, and the items you choose really depends on what challenges lie before you. Make sure that you utilise the Combine feature to create stronger potions that can restore more HP at once. This is much better than using herbs themselves. Alternatively, you can use meat for its gradual HP restore properties parallel to additional effects such as raising defense, attack or speed. There are a lot of surprising ways that you can gain XP in the game with very little effort. Of course, there are quests you can complete and normal battles to participate in that grant XP, but those XP gains can feel unimpactful sometimes, particularly later in the game. This is primarily due to the fact that the amount of XP required to level up increases exponentially, meaning that it can be a challenge to get to higher levels. You might also find yourself switching out a monster in your team for a lower level one for its skill set and needing them to catch up to the level of your current monster team. There are easier ways of doing this than grinding until you are blue in the face. Here's a few ways you can boost your XP gains. The first and most obvious way is by using the prayer pot that is introduced right at the start in Hakum Village. By consulting a prayer pot, you can gain an active blessing if you are willing to pay for it. Active blessings are temporary timed boosts that typically increase the amount of XP you can earn, and how much feeling, or zeni, you offer affects the duration of the active blessing. If you require a more specific boost, then offering up charms to the prayer pot is your best bet. You will encounter different charms as you progress in the game, which are one-time offerings to the prayer pot consumed upon use. Charms effects last for 30 minutes and can range from decreasing merchants' selling prices and increasing defense, to greatly increasing XP gains and the likelihood of encountering rare monster dens. Another way to level up your monster pals is to feed them by combining ingredients to create food that will grant XP on use. From dragon noodles that grant 50 XP to stone roasted fish that grants 1200 XP, it's an effortless way to bump up a monster's level. There's also nutrients that you can give to your character or a monster to increase base stats, but they do not grant XP. Another great way to rack up some passive XP is to send your monsters on expeditions. This is a mechanic introduced a little later in the game, but it's definitely a good thing to know about beforehand. Expeditions in Monster Hunter stories are just like poker jobs in Pokemon Sword and Shield, where you send Pokemon on excursions for a specified time and they return with items and XP. It can be an excellent way to level up monsters that are not currently in your party, but you may want to use at some point. It's also a great way to gain additional resources. My final and perhaps most valuable tip for gaining a huge amount of XP is by defeating barrel felines. If you are lucky enough to stumble onto one of these XP cash cows and they don't flee from the battle, then you will be rewarded with a whopping 10,000 XP, so be certain to keep an eye out for these. Anyways, I'm going to stop here before I start going into too much detail about stims, egg fragments and other more complicated mechanics, because I adore this game and I could say so much more about it. But this is a beginner's tip video, so that stuff will have to wait for another day. So that was 6 things I wish I knew before playing Monster Hunter Stories. Do let me know if you found this video helpful and if you would like to see more content on this fantastic game, because God knows I love making videos and I love this game. I've been Heather at Amalgamingle and thank you very much for watching.